surgery and getting themselves fixed and healed up, so they are working, Malcolm's a smart guy right now and working hard, so he can, that's why they're bringing in that manpower team from Danville. They did have a water line on Beverly Heights Road that was broken by a contractor. The contractor was doing everything right, really. He had a pair of postal diggers on that water line. It wasn't a backhoe, it wasn't any big piece of equipment. It was what you call, I think in industry term we call it government pipe. He hit that line with his postal diggers and it cracked it 45 inches down. So we did have, it did impact Beverly Heights up to Green Rock. We had to cut that line, Infomark did to put it in, so we had a boil water notice. Had to get our two, you have to have two lab tests between anytime you cut a line like that, lose pressure completely, less than 21 PSI. So we did that, had our 16 hours between each sample. We got it Saturday morning, we lifted that boil water notice with the recension. We were in contact with DDH the entire time, they did right. Malcolm was working with Green Rock throughout the entire time, and then up and down the street with the citizens. The only really difficult piece on that we learned from is everyone talks that there is a bypass valve at Green Rock. No one at Green Rock knew how to operate or where the bypass valve was. And they were not open to doing some tests, plus Malcolm was busy trying to get things shut down for that event so we could get that pipe fixed. Malcolm went out there, he had a planned time to go out there and test. We think we know where that valve is. Green Rock went out there and did not, for whatever reason, even though they agreed to go out there, didn't want to shut down the water that day for the test. So Malcolm has to reschedule that event. I'm pretty sure we know, again, where that valve is. We just need Green Rock to stand there. And my direction to Infomark and Green Rock with talking with them was just sit there and test it, write it down in a notebook, and you put it on your shelf, we put it on our shelf. Anytime this event occurs, there should be no reason why we cannot, if our tanks are always full out there and that Green Rock tank is generally kept full, that we can shut off water to the entire system and they can be fed off that tank until it's empty. Everyone tells us there's a process for it, so Malcolm's charged with going out there and finding that next week, so he's gonna have to he's gonna have to wait on Green Rock. I'm not sure why they didn't want to figure that piece out, but we'll get that piece figured out for us, if no one else. Asset management system, with their 29 work orders were submitted, 20 were closed, there's 10 open. Everything from picking up brush and leaves and mowing, Japanese not over there, to finishing some of these meters that are out there. Finished water report for April, average 0.45 million gallons a day, or 14.01 million gallons for that month. And we've produced a total of 186.04 million gallons of drinkable water since January 2025. There is one other issue with Green Rock that is impacting, making Malcolm's job a little bit harder than it should be. They have a sewer grinder. What do you call it, Malcolm? A muffin?
Muffin monster.
Muffin monster. It's a sewer grinder for trash and big things that get thrown down there so it doesn't clog up the system. Found out today that Malcolm's been dealing with this for about more than 30 days. Their system, that grinder apparently is broken. And so that means that anytime it clogs up, his team has to go out, pull a pump out of the lift station, clean all the trash out and get after it. So I sent an email, after we finished our meeting this afternoon, I sent an email to the local facilities director and CC the big facilities director on it to get that thing fixed. So we should not have to spend, up to one day pulling the pump 15 times. I mean, he spent all this time at the pump, not at work. So we'll get that fixed. We'll lean on Virginia Department of Corrections to get that fixed. On our external focus, again, we talked about the work is probably closer to 50% completed by now. We're about 55% on the dollar side. The newest thing in there is Robin Court connection has been in place, and it's just waiting on Pittsylvania County. Pittsylvania County did release a public notice on their intent to connect an 8-inch line from our connecting point to Robin Court. So they are now moving forward with that. We should see some movement on something here, and as far as their construction side, probably I would say 30 to 45 days if they have their public notice out. And then with the letters that went out on the lead and copper sewer, or lead and copper inventory, we had 7 residents call to verify that they had remodels. So as they call, because again, it's just a notice, information, because we don't know exactly what's in their house going up to it. 7 residents did call us back and say, hey, they had remodels which met the requirements, so we could take them off the list, which is good for both us and them. And we had 2 residents that weren't having any issues, but did ask to be added to our normal quarterly sampling program. So we've added them to that, and that information is passed to Adam Brooks to, again, work into his location. Did get an email right before I walked in here tonight. The final design is 100% complete for Cherrystone 1, so those 2 designs are forward and submitted, and we'll just see where they go from there. We talked about medical center. We'll review some common source requests in a closed session today, and then we'll also look at the fire department had some shingles blow off, and we have 3 quotes to look at tonight in closed session also. And then in town hall, we noticed that we had some, on the clerk treasurer wall, we've been having some moisture issues. Walked outside and started looking, and there's some repointing on that old brick that has come out. That antique brick has a limestone mortar instead of your standard mortar they use these days, so we have to get that. I've got 1 quote, but I'm waiting on at least 1 other quote, if not 2. For some reason, finding brick masons to come down and give you a quote is not an easy thing to do. They call and say they'll show up, and like I said, I've gotten 1, and he came from Maryland. For Reimagine Chatham, they've talked about the branding issue, and that's a big brand push for tonight. I'll hand out these invites to each of you council members that Reimagine Chatham asked me to give, and this really just has those dates. There's an email out there, and there's a date for those roundtables, May 21st through the 23rd will be the final one. And it's really open to everybody. Really, like the more participation, the better, as they look forward to say how to brand, what's the best way to brand Chatham moving forward, as Joel talked about participation with all these civic groups. We responded to 6 zoning questions, 3 contractor questions. We've got 4 letters out to citizen parcel owners with vehicles that are under the term of the ordinance considered derelict. 2 of them are in works of removing, and 2 of them haven't responded, and they'll get a visit from us on the end of the month if they haven't done it. So the other 2 we should have, they've asked till the 20th to have their stuff adjusted and come in compliance with the ordinance. Multiple lawn letters were sent out, 4 yards were mowed, and those billings are going out to the owners. We identified 3 grave sites and marked 1 for funeral homes. VDOT work orders, they had 7 open and 7 closed, but they did not pave the end of Carter Street and Reed Street like they said they were going to with the hard patch. So I'm engaged again with the VDOT engineer to figure out where that is, whether it just got pushed due to contractor availability.
They didn't do it at all, or
they did. They came down at Center Street. They came and put that gravel oil patch on that immediately, just piled up in front of Howerton's funeral home. So, which we've told them before, that's fairly worthless on that piece anyway. So we'll get back in, engage with them to figure out what's next. Then we have 1 business license applied for. The cruise in, as Joel talked about, and the Spring Festival were completed. Not a big cruise in as we normally have the first time, but it was, let's see what we have, Chief, 300, 250, 300, something like that.
252.
And then that is it. Of course, there's plenty of other stuff in there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any question? First off, Nick, again, appreciate all the work you do with the reports you have though, and I was reading through it multiple times. Well, the first time though, I come to page 16 of the packet, and I see right there, Cherrystone Reservoir Dam Rehabilitation. It's something happened with the printer here, I guess, though. I was trying to read.
That was an old, so I usually gray out old information and keep bold, and the printer for whatever reason did not like to grayed out.
Okay, I apologize, because I mean,
So that was on. I tried to do that so you're not, it sticks in there, but it adds to it.
so nothing new in that report though, except for the fact that we have the final design phase, which is that roller compact, whatever it is, RCC.
Roll concrete down.
Yes, and which personally, I do not agree with that report, but I won't go there. That's a long history there. But anyway, thank you again.
One thing I thought, man,
One thing I thought of, Nick, with the farmer's market, and only 13% of the eye on water, could we set up a table, with a laptop or something and maybe invite people to do their eye on water? I know when I'm out and about, it's much easier if somebody's there waiting to help. Of course, it might mean